If I'm being completely honest, I didn't even really want to make this video at first, but I figured if I've covered every main game in the Skate series, it would feel wrong to omit a review of this one. So I'm going to keep my overall thoughts brief and suggest that you watch Burbus's great video on this subject, because this is about all the attention that I really want to give to this game right now. My immediate thought with Skate's early access release is simply that it's just not grabbing me the same way earlier games in the series have. It seems like reception overall has been pretty mixed, and I can see why. I'm going to tell you right now that this video is definitely going to skew negative. It doesn't mean that Skate 4 is a complete piece of trash, or I'm trying to say you should feel bad for playing and enjoying it, but to me this game feels on par with like a really bad remake. I know it's a sequel and not a remake, but it has that grubby cash grab feel that has seeped into so many remakes and remasters. This is truly the Ratchet 2016 of the Skate series, a mechanically solid husk of a game that originally had so much bite. The new Skate game is a slightly fun, otherwise completely soulless cash grab. It's the kind of game that makes me feel sad about what we'll settle for as consumers. So far, it seems to be doing well, although I think the popularity is dying down a little bit. But I guess it's done exactly what EA planned. Why charge money for a complete and finished product with actual thought and love into skateboarding culture and the history of the series, when you can instead use a creatively bankrupt shell with the bare bones mechanics of previous games to sell overpriced cosmetics to children? To be fair, it's a proven strategy in the games industry. Why spend money and resources on things like actual pro skaters, Hall of Meat, a realistic setting inspired by real skate spots, when you can crap out the most sterile looking map possible and include a generative AI as a companion, which, by the way, is thankfully not actually AI in the modern sense. I mean, I don't know if the writing for it is, because it's so sterile and cringe that it very well could be, but it spits out pre-recorded lines just like the other NPCs, if you can even call them that. Considering all the NPCs in this game just have AI-generated looking portraits, and none of these characters have an actual model that's rendered in-engine. I want you to reflect for a moment on what that actually means. It means that EA is so out of touch with skating culture that they genuinely thought people would appreciate a fake AI companion. And look, I get that you can turn off the constant quips she makes in the game's options, but I feel like it's only fair to judge this game as the devs intended. And it's just so wild to me that they thought this would be a good idea. I don't want this video to come across like this is the worst game I've ever played or something, but I mean, it's hard to argue with the hardcore fan sentiment here that it is an absolute mess that misunderstands the premise of the entire Skate series. If you watched my previous retrospective on the original trilogy, you'll know that I wouldn't even consider myself quite as hardcore of a fan of the series as many others. Don't get me wrong, I love all the previous Skate games a lot, especially Skate 3, but I would definitely say I'm more of a casual admirer of the series, and I'm still offended by this. Also, in that video, I tried to express a cautious optimism that this game would capture at least some of the magic of the previous entries, while acknowledging that realistically my expectations were in the gutter. And I just can't believe that I still ended up disappointed with what we've got. Not surprised, but still disappointed. Now, you could look at the gameplay of the game as an overall positive, and that's what many reviews I've seen, even the more critical ones, praise the most. And yes, the gameplay feels like Skate. It's still fun to set up lines, and there are parts of the map, though it's an overall disappointment, that are fun to skate in. It's even smoother than older games in some scenarios, and does genuinely feel good in terms of animation, sound, and feel. My only problem with this is that I'm personally of the opinion that EA doesn't really get any points for that. EA shouldn't be praised that the game feels like the others gameplay-wise. It's an expectation. I didn't give Pro Skater 3+4 any extra points for feeling exactly like the last game, and it's the same story here. There are missing mechanics and tricks too. So it's not enough that the game just feels good, it needs to actually be good. And while I'm not sure I'd call the game 100% garbage, I just don't really understand what this game offers that the significantly better previous games don't. Meanwhile, those games offer loads of things that this one doesn't. An actual overarching overarching goal, graphics and art style that still hold up today when this game looks dated immediately, a multiplayer mode that, feels like a multiplayer mode, and an option to play the games offline. And speaking of that, anyone who defends games as a service, especially when it comes to less popular titles like this, purely misunderstands why it's so much better to own your own media. When I first installed this game, it wouldn't even let me play because the servers were down for maintenance. And when the servers came back up and I went to get footage later, it still wasn't even working until I found an obscure Reddit thread with a random fix. It doesn't matter if it's free. This is still a product and I expect it to work. It's just sad that I've had so much of a more reliable experience with mods like Rethawed or even emulating the old Skate games than I have with the new officially released sequel to the series. And to anyone saying it's not a sequel, it's a reboot or something, I genuinely don't care about the semantics of what it is. It's a new Skate game and it's unfinished. I also don't subscribe to the idea that we should wait for the game to get good because it's in early access. Early access is nothing more than an excuse to ship an unpolished game, and incrementally adding things like dark slides isn't going to fix what is ultimately a completely misguided release from the ground up. Contrary to what you may think, I didn't want Skate 4 to be bad. I just kind of expected it to be, and it kind of is. I mean, even aside from things like art style, jank, optimization issues, even things like challenges feel like a downgrade from Skate 2 and 3. I'll also say right now that this is the most bored I've ever felt playing a game in this series before. I would rather do follow challenges or film challenges in Old Town on the curb all day in Skate 1 than play this game. Because even when the previous Skate games were at their worst, in my opinion, they still had a strong sense of identity. And there's no way to describe this new game as anything other than a husk of that. So yeah, some people have been asking what I thought about the new Skate game, and to those of you who have been enjoying it, I genuinely hope you're having a great time with it. But personally, it's going to be impossible for me to ever come around on this one, I think, and it just really irks me to my core. Anyway, sorry about the lack of uploads lately and the short run time of this video. I'm working on more videos at the moment and gonna take a step away from skating games for the next little bit. I think 2 major disappointing releases in a row has kind of taken its toll on me, but I'm excited to get working on the next few videos. Thanks for watching.